What do you think, John? Should we go ahead and get started?
Absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Well, welcome everybody. It's so good to see so many of you. I'm really glad so many of you could join us here tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dave Bringen. I'm the Executive Director of Lawrenceville United. We are the nonprofit resident advocacy organization in the neighborhood. I'm joined by all of my colleagues at LU. All of our full-time staff are here, Daryl, Sarah, and Helen. So you'll get to meet them, I think, in the breakout rooms. Also joined by Lauren Connolly, my counterpart at Lawrenceville Corporation. And I have the duty of welcoming you all tonight and going through some technical and accessibility notes just on the front end. So, again, welcome. This is a really exciting meeting. This is the first open and public community meeting we're having for the first phase of Arsenal Park. Obviously, a lot of work has gone into getting us here and a lot of community meetings and a lot of engagement. But this is kind of the first public session as part of this phase. And we're really starting to see plans starting to become reality. So it's a really exciting moment that I'm really looking forward to tonight. Just on some accessibility notes real quickly, we want to make sure we know while we can all join with a cocktail in our hands from the comfort of our homes, we also know that technology can bring some added challenges for folks. We really want to make sure that everybody can access these meetings. So if anyone has any accessibility notes, this is a great opportunity to bring those up. If there's anything that you're going to need in order to fully participate here tonight, whether it's understanding how to use the platform or anything that we should know in terms of accessibility, this is a great moment. You can put this into the chat or you can speak up now to let us know so that we can make sure that everyone can fully participate tonight. I think everybody is joining us by computer, it looks like. I don't think we have any phone participants. But if you are joining us by phone or if you're not able to see what's on the screen, it would be helpful to know that so that we can make sure that we're describing what is on the screen to folks. So please put that in the chat if you do have any accessibility notes. I'll remind folks that with a big meeting like this, it's great if everybody can mute themselves when they're not speaking. That way you can cut down on background noise and then unmute yourself when you want to speak. We also had an episode of Zoom bombing recently. So we've tightened, I sort of shared with the city that that was something we were concerned about since that happened to us recently. For those of you who don't know, Zoom bombing is when people who are not affiliated with our community or with the meeting that we're doing here tonight kind of crash the meeting oftentimes in a coordinated fashion. They can display inappropriate material, be very disruptive. So we have a set of security protocols that we've enacted for tonight in order to mitigate that risk. However, there's always a risk of that. So if it does occur, what we will do is there's a number of us who are co-hosts on this event. We will try to root it out as quickly as we can. It's helpful if you can, for participants, if you can, point out to us or chat, message us in the chat of who appears to be doing it. If we have suspicions about anything, we'll probably just reach out directly to people by chat. Once we've resolved the issue, we'll then kind of evaluate if everybody's okay to move forward. So that's there to hopefully to avoid us from having to end the session. I know when we got Zoom bombed the last time, we did have to actually just end the meeting because it was there was so much that we couldn't actually get the meeting back under control. So we hope to avoid that tonight. So I just wanted to put that out there up front. As most of you are regulars of our community process know, we also like to have ground rules for our community meetings to make sure that we're spending this time productively and respectfully and not wasting anyone's time. So we're going to keep them simple here tonight. We have 3 ground rules for tonight. One is please ask questions in the chat while people are presenting. That way we can get through we have a lot of content to get through. So put your questions in the chat until we get into the breakout sessions. At that point, you'll have an opportunity to ask more direct questions to the project team. Be respectful towards all speakers and neighbors. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. This is usually the moment where I put up Mr. Rogers in the screen and remind us all to live by his example, and that we're all neighbors in this Zoom meeting. So let's all treat each other respectfully and as neighbors as Mr. Rogers would want us to do. And then the last one is just ensure all voices get heard. There is a survey available on the Engage website already. I know the project team is very accessible to folks for additional input. Tonight is really about dialogue and getting opportunities for us to have discussions and hear from different points of view. And critical to that is making sure that everyone gets time to speak and share their point of view. So if you are someone like me who's very inclined to speak a lot, maybe take some steps back if you find that you are hogging all the conversation. If you are someone who's very reticent to speak, challenge yourself to speak up. We are having this meeting because we want your perspective in the room. So please, let's make sure that everybody gets to share their perspective tonight. And I think that's all from my section. I'm gonna turn it over to Lauren Byrne-Connolly at Lawrenceville Corporation, who's gonna talk about some of the master plan that got us here.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Good evening. I'm Lauren Connolly. For those who don't know me, I'm the executive director at Lawrenceville Corporation. It's great to see you all virtually. And for those of you that have been engaged in the Arsenal Park planning process for years now, thank you for staying engaged and staying a partner in the effort. And for those of you who are new to the process, we welcome you, and we're really excited that you want to engage and provide your feedback and input into what the park can be in the future for all of us. So just wanted to provide a brief summary of what has led us to today. Back in 2012, 2013, the city was actually completing a comprehensive open space plan and parks plan. At the same time, the Lawrenceville community, working in partnership, Friends of Arsenal Park, Lawrenceville United, Lawrenceville Corporation, and others were working with the city, trying to figure out how improvements could be made to the park. And so, working together, we realized that that planning process that was underway, the comprehensive planning process, actually recommended that a master plan be done to the park to really think about, future uses and a redevelopment of the park itself. So Friends of Arsenal Park, Lawrenceville United, Lawrenceville Corporation worked with Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy and the city of Pittsburgh to actually undergo a master planning process for the park. Through that process, I think more than 400 people were engaged. There were 10 public engagement sessions, whether that was walks through the park, engagement sessions at the library, community meetings. There were 15 focus groups. There was a lot of input and engagement as part of that process. And the goal was to create a plan that prioritized a few things, or that's what came out of the plan. And those included preserving, celebrating, and raising awareness of the history of the park, connectivity, so connectivity within the park, connectivity to between the school in the park, the living facilities at the other end, bringing the neighborhood, making sure the neighborhood could get in and out, making the park more accessible, and thinking about restoring the ecology and history of the park. So those were some of the priorities that informed the master plan and that were really celebrated by that planning process. So the master plan was also pretty visionary, and it was a bit high level. Since then, the city is working to advance the master plan into actual concepts. So right now we're looking at a first phase of the park plan, working with PASHIC, and that's where we are now. So tonight we're going to look at some of the concepts that have been developed, and we'll be able to provide feedback on what we think about that, and if we think that those are really exhibiting the priorities as a community that we want to see in the park. So it's really exciting to be here now because we're really close to seeing some of the improvements and some of the changes that we've talked about for a really long time.
Eric, can you advance to the next slide, please?
So with that, I am going to turn it over to Andrea Ketzel, who's been managing this process from the city of Pittsburgh and has been a great partner in this whole effort.
Thanks, Lauren, and thanks, Dave, for the overview and introduction tonight. So this is just our agenda for the evening. Dave and Lauren covered the welcome and review of kind of the master plan process up to this point. I'm going to jump into who we are as a project team. And what we've been up to over the past almost year and a half now, and also review the timeline of the project with you tonight. And after that, I'll pass it over to our design consultants who will go into the presentation of the design concepts. And then after that presentation, we'll have some time to break out into smaller groups and discuss those concepts for about 20 minutes. And then we will come back to the larger group and report out some of those main findings from our smaller sessions. And then we'll cover the next steps in this process. So if you could hit the next slide. So who we are as a project team. My name is Andrea Ketzel. For those of you that don't know me, I am the Senior Landscape Architect with the Department of Public Works, and I'm managing the project for the city of Pittsburgh. About a year and a half ago, we issued an RFP for professional services to design the first phase of this project. We worked with Lawrenceville United, Lawrenceville Corporation, Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy, who ran the master plan process. And through that process, we selected Pashik MTR as the design consultant for the project. So tonight we have John Burkle, Eric Brightman, Keely McDonald, and Jenny Easton from their team, who will be helping us out, and you'll see their faces some more in some of the breakout rooms. We also have a number of consultants that have come together to work and make sure that we are covering all aspects of the design of this project. And also our community partners, who are all listed all around this particular slide, who have just either served on our advisory committee or just have been really useful in providing information and insight in the project up to this point. And of course, our community members and the residents who we hope to have a lot of you on the call tonight to provide some more feedback on the project. So next slide, thanks. So this is our overall project timeline and schedule, and I know it's a little bit hard to see on this screen, but circled in red is community meeting number 1, which is where we are tonight. There are a number of community meetings after this that we will have a total of 4 throughout this process. So this will not be the last time that you will be able to provide feedback in this process. We want to provide many opportunities throughout the project to hear your voices and make sure that we're providing a park amenity that suits the community's needs. So I also want to mention on this slide some of our timeline for construction. One of the biggest questions that we get when we start these projects is, when are they going to be built? When are we going to see something in the ground? So our intent is to work on the designs with you throughout the next year and be ready for construction at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, and have the project complete by the fall of 2022. So that is our project timeline for phase 1. And we will go into a little bit more description of what phase 1 encompasses when we review the master plan. So next slide. This is just covering some of the work that we have been doing over the past year and a half. When the project was handed over to the city, we felt that we needed to do some due diligence with regards to some of the historical and cultural resources on site, as well as some of the environmental resources, which are trees and topography, and really taking a look at those aspects and seeing how they impacted the master plan that was produced in 2015. So as a part of our project team and sub-consultants, Pashik NTR brought on Christine Davis consultants, who are local archaeologists who work a lot in the area. And they have so far completed phase 1 and phase 2 of their archaeology study. We've also needed to present those findings of that study to a consulting parties group, which consisted of a number of our key stakeholders in the community. We talked with Lawrenceville Historic Society, Preservation Pittsburgh, LULC, a number of people who had a particular interest in some of these cultural resources. And we also needed to report those findings back to the State Historic Office. So there was quite a bit of work that went into that. And as a result of those findings, we took some time to look at the master plan and see what aspects of that master plan needed to be revised, and what we could kind of still work with. So we have since convened with the Arsenal Advisory Committee a number of times. We met early on in the summer and a little bit later in the summer to just kind of review some of those revised plans and make sure that everyone is still on board with moving forward. And we also met with the Arsenal Playground Committee to present some preliminary ideas regarding the play space for this phase of the project. And we've also done a little bit of outreach through our Engage PGH website, which is a platform that the city has put on as a result of COVID-19. We needed to find a way to continue to do community outreach, knowing that we needed to also be remote. And it's been a really great resource on top of some of the work that both Dave and Lauren have done in person at the farmers markets, and really helping us out to make sure that we reach out to as many people as possible in this project. So we're excited to be here tonight. It's taken a lot of work to get to this first community meeting, and we're excited to discuss some of the excuse me, design developments that have happened since. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Brightman with Pashik MTR, and he's going to discuss some of the master plan and the implications of the master plan that resulted in the concepts that we will be presenting tonight.
Thank you, Andrea and Lauren and Dave. I want to first start off by saying that I had the opportunity to attend one of the farmers market tabling sessions last week. And although it was chilly, it was really great to see the community out and about and to see people face to face. And, you know, it means a lot. You've got a great community there at Lawrenceville, and, you know, that makes all the difference in the world. So it was really nice to engage with some of the folks out there. As Lauren and Andrea had said, we started with the master plan. That was our starting point, along with this bird's eye view and the program for that master plan. That was our baseline. And what we needed to do is we were charged with taking these elements and try to incorporate them into the site, following three main goals. The first would be to limit the negative impact to the existing tree canopy. Second is to kind of study interpret and respond to the historic, cultural, and archaeological resources of the site. This is a site that's rich in history, and we wanted to celebrate that in some way and make sure that it is there for all to enjoy. And the third is to respond to the existing topography and understand what the implications may or may not be with taking some of the ideas in the master plan. Really look at this from a critical eye. So this is the entire site. It's about 9 acres. And this again is a slide from the MKSK master plan that identified all the areas within the site. And as previously mentioned, this has been parceled out, and we have been charged with just looking at this small section outlined in blue, which would be areas A, B1, B2, and E. And we're charged with creating a schematic design and grading plan for these 4 areas. And then more specifically, we are to take the area that is highlighted in light blue, which is area A, produce construction drawings, specifications, and construction administration for this area. So to make this area a reality as part of this phase 1.
So Eric, can you back up for a second?
Sure.
So what we're looking at in terms of these letter designations, area B is the mall, area A is where the existing ball field is today, and area E is where the existing court space is located. And so we are charged with doing a master plan to make sure that the site can accommodate what is being proposed from a programmatic standpoint for all 4 of these areas. And then the phase 1 construction will really focus in on the playscape element and restoration of a portion of the wall along 40th Street. And so really wanted to highlight that although we're talking about a larger picture, the first phase is a little bit more confined. And then there's the remaining portion of the park where we have the powder magazine and the pond and the tennis courts and the other existing ball field. And that will be a future phase in its entirety after we get through this particular phase of planning and construction of phase A, and then subsequently the following area E and area B on the mall. Also, for this particular phase of construction, the city has budgeted $1 million. So that will give you an idea of what the city is investing. And that's a combination of a variety of funding sources that the city has pulled together to be able to implement the master plan. So, okay, Eric, you can go to the next slide.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, so what we needed to do is really kind of evaluate the existing tree canopy. We know it's important. Trees are important for many reasons. And this site has a lot of very nice, beautiful, mature trees, providing shade, habitat for wildlife, clean air, all kinds of good things. So we reviewed the site and the existing trees with City Forestry, Tree Pittsburgh, and the Department of Public Works. So we wanted to really understand what we were working with regards to existing tree canopy. And you know, there are a lot of healthy, mature trees on this site. And also, as previously mentioned, we do need to consult with the State Historic Preservation Office for this project. So we took the report developed from our consultant, our archaeological consultant. We shared that with with SHPO, and they came back with kind of 4 guidelines for moving forward with this portion of the project. They are to be included and involved in reviewing and approving our proposed plans for this. And they'd like us to consider potential below grade archaeological conflicts, embrace the periods of historical significance, and there are 4 of them, key periods that have been identified. The Allegheny Arsenal from the beginning, 1814 to 1907. The transition to a city park in the early 1900s. The 1930s renovation, which is kind of the sweet spot with regards to this historical significance. It's much of what you see out on the site today with regards to the framework of path network systems and program. And then finally, more recently, 1994 renovation. Those are the 4 periods highlighted or identified. And lastly, of course, their focus too is the improvement, or any improvements must preserve the existing trees. So this is a snapshot of the 1934 Griswold development plan, again, hitting that 1930s renovation sweet spot for historical significance. So we took all of these layers of information, the master plan program, existing trees, and topography, and we said, okay, what are we dealing with here with regards to kind of the master plan and how it fits onto the site? And so when we kind of got into the data and rolled up our sleeves, it became clear that there would be some impact required in order to kind of oversee what was identified as far as circulation and program. Significant removal of trees, and totaling 432 caliper inches, which if you equate that to the inch for inch replacement requirements, that's over 200 2-inch caliper trees. There would be significant earth moving and extensive ramps and handrails, retaining walls, all of that to achieve the circulation as shown. And then there's the archaeological potential for impact to the archaeological structures kind of below grade that came out in our consultant's review of the site, which included scouring historical documents, plans, images, ground penetrating radar. So they really did an extensive investigation. So this is the program, and we're not proposing to change the program at all. This is identified in the master plan. We want to incorporate this into the site. And we really want to kind of check in with the community to find out, are these still important, as Lauren mentioned. So this is the program for kind of that entire area outlined in blue in the previous slide. So, for park access, we want more accessible routes into the park, provide a connection to the Arsenal School, restore the perimeter wall along 40th from the school alley over to the existing flagpole entrance. Renovations to the mall, new paved surface, permeable pavers, shade trees, native plantings, seating, benches, spray water feature, park standard pole lights, and a rain garden. The playscape, which is kind of the highlight, I think, of our task in overseeing the construction documents, a pavilion, restroom building, a play area for multiple uses, 2 to 5 and 5 to 12-year-old, pedestrian bridge, perimeter track, rubberized play surface, rain gardens. And then finally, the court space to include an activity, an observation wall, asphalt court surface, lighting, walking track surface, furnishings, and rain gardens. So with that, we developed 3 concepts or schemes to kind of begin the conversation with the community about what's important. What do you want to see? It's been quite some time since the master plan was developed, the MKSK master plan. So, this is a good time to check in with the community and make sure, are these needs still valid? And there probably are some members of the community that were not part of the MKSK master plan. So, so concept one, they're going to be, there are three components, well, there are several components within the three concepts that are the same. And those would be the accessible entrance off of 40th Street. This is the existing flagpole here. And creating an accessible entrance from 39th Street, connecting to the existing kind of bridle path along here and then up into the mall. And the outdoor classroom, as well as the mall circulation. So all of those components are going to be pretty similar within the three concepts. And what's changed is kind of the core for the court space and the playground area. So as I mentioned, we want to create an accessible entrance. Obviously, this is the first and foremost to get people into the park safely and barrier free. So coming in off of 40th and 39th Street, we're coming into the mall, which is a great space as it is. I mean, there are a ton of existing trees providing shade, providing just a great place to hang out and be in the summer. So we're proposing within that mall, adding some trees, lawn space, seating arrangement, and also a picnic plaza. This would just be a great place to, have a picnic in the summer. Getting into the main core of the space here, we're taking some of the language from the 1930s, aligning kind of the entrance into the play space and court space from the alley across the way here on the health department side of the site, terminating with the restroom and arbor, which kind of creates a front door into the space, leading into our full court basketball, observation and activity wall, multi-purpose space, which could include bank shot, which we'll talk about a little bit on a future slide, or pavement games or any combination thereof. Continuing through, we want to provide access to the school. We feel we can do this with a bridge structure. The elevations work from inside the school, providing a seamless barrier-free entrance from the school into the park. So really being able to activate the site from the school, I think is important. I think the kids now have to walk along the sidewalk and up the stairs and into the site. Continuing into the playscape, we have a spray feature, 2 to 5 year old play area, 5 to 12-year-old play area, and then an observation mound and hill slide area that kind of, I don't want to say it separates the spaces, but it provides play value for both of those age groups. We have, a circulation route around the play space and also around the court space. And then we have lawn areas on the periphery for more passive uses, picnicking or just playing ball. Or we're also incorporating rain gardens with some exploration paths, and these rain gardens can kind of, maybe they start to get stitched into the play space, and we really wanted to try to integrate that together with the playground and not just, have it be an appendage, but integrate that. Also included would be, invasive removals along the woods, not only across the entire site, but in particular along the school side and slope. And I think I covered everything on this one. So just for comparison, the current playground has approximately 4,000 square feet. There isn't a whole lot of play value. There are some swings, and I'm not actually sure what the existing play structure would be for. I believe it's for, oops, excuse me, sorry. 2 to 5 year old, but there isn't a lot of play value in the existing play equipment. So by comparison, this scheme here has about 3,500 square feet for 2 to 5, 4,500 square feet for the 5 to 12. And then of course the added spray feature square footage, which is about 1,800.
And Eric, I'd like to add a few things. The size of the play spaces are equal to the size of the play spaces that were proposed in the master plan. We wanted to make sure that we captured the intent of the master plan and what was designed programmatically. And so the sizes are the same. There was some questions about green infrastructure. And yes, certainly we will be implementing green infrastructure techniques as the design is developed. We're talking about pervious pavements. We're talking about rain garden areas throughout the play space so that we can reduce as much as possible the amount of pervious paving that will be in the various areas that are proposed here. Those details will be worked out as we refine the design, because you're going to see, as Eric moves on here, 2 other concepts that look different. And so this is part of the design process. Once we get through selecting which concept or combination of concepts we're going to move forward with, then we'll get down into details of green infrastructure, pervious pavements versus impervious areas, as well as the details of benches and fountains and lighting. But a lot of that, right now we're looking at it more conceptually in terms of where spaces will be located in the proposed master plan. So, okay, Eric, you can move on to the next one.
Okay, so concept 2, again, the perimeter wall, the accessible access from 40th and 39th Street, outdoor classroom and mall are virtually the same. We have enlarged this picnic plaza area, create some more variety. I mean, we also have, this is a pavement surface now. I think this is just about over top of the existing swings. So it would be minimal disturbance to the existing tree root systems. And again, this could be a pervious material. Our entrance is centrally located again into the play space and court space. Instead of having a structure at the front door, we've included the pavilion and restroom just inside, so it becomes part of the interior of these 2 spaces and also part of the mall. We're incorporating, again, 2 to 5 and 5 to 12-year-old play space. But within that, we have incorporated the observation mound, hillslide, and climbing area within those respective areas, as opposed to the previous option where it was more centrally located. These are kind of part of those play spaces. And we have a circulation loop here, access to the school, court space, pavement games, activity and observation wall. And again, with the rain garden and exploration paths starting to kind of stitch into the play spaces a little bit more. The last concept, we were asked during some of the advisory committee meetings to explore an option that's kind of a base case option where we're just taking what's there and improving upon it a little bit. So in this option, we're showing, the play spaces. We may be able to expand upon these a little bit using the existing footprint, the pavement footprints. But we're proposing to incorporate, again, a variety of play to make sure we get 2 to 5 and 5 to 12-year-old play components. This would be beneficial for shade for certain because we're utilizing or would be utilizing the existing tree canopy. Still having our accessible entrances into the park and through the mall. And then keeping the kind of pavement and court spaces where they're existing, and then incorporating a pavilion and restroom into that. So again, we have the multi-purpose space, which would be, bank shot, pavement games, and then improving upon the baseball diamond and renovating the baseball diamond. Again, the school access is included in this concept, woodland buffer. We have the rain gardens here in the mall. So what we want to go through next is kind of show you some character images of the playscape. And some of these have been pulled from the master plan, some are new, but these are really to kind of demonstrate kind of the character of these spaces, textures, using change in topography for play, just getting the different sensories of all of the young kids stimulated. So these are just some options of what these spaces could look like and feel like. Incorporating different climbing components and incorporating different types of slides into embankments, vertical elements, colorful elements, using simple and minute grade changes to actually create spaces that are more stimulating. Embankment climbers, boulder scrambles, net climbers, climbing walls. This is the multi-purpose space, which is showing here a bank shot, which is an inclusive game where it's kind of like miniature golf with basketball, but it allows many users wheelchair accessibility, someone who's in a wheelchair can play with somebody who is not in a wheelchair, and they can play alongside of each other. I think oftentimes when you only have a basketball court and there's a game going on, there's the parties that want to play have to wait for the game to finish, and then so this would allow more activity within the space. Foursquare and other pavement games. I think in one of the previous meetings, Gaga Ball, I think was discussed. We want to find out, is this something that the community wants, feels that there's a need for, or is missing? Full court basketball, again, with the observation seating and activity wall. And these are some examples of spray elements, and we're not sure how many of these we're actually going to be able to include, but these are just some different sensory experiences: water spraying, falling on top of you, little geysers, bubblers, misting sprays. Getting all the different age groups activated and involved. The next 3 slides are some play equipment pieces that we've kind of compiled together. There are so many pieces and options for play equipment. We really want to be able to have pieces that are accessible, inclusive, colorful, playful. They're going to last. They're going to be easy to maintain. We kind of have to check all of the boxes when it comes to choosing the play equipment. So we've kind of grouped them in 3 different styles. And so this is in no way you have to pair them together or as we have them shown. This is just to get the discussion started, get the juices flowing. Let's talk about what's interesting, what's not. So there are different characters, their colors, different types of climbing, different types of swinging. There's spinners. And then I think this slide highlights some more inclusive pieces where the spinner actually will allow a wheelchair to get into and spin, use that spinner. The seesaw is also accessible, allows transfer platforms. The friendship swing, it can include how many kids are on there? 4, 5, 6, 7 kids are playing on that one structure. Different types of towers with climbing, sliding, crawling, different types of sensory experiences. And then some of the 2 to 5-year-old equipment is smaller, but just as important for that play experience. Swings, springers, sound play, playhouses. These are all things that are seen in playgrounds, but we really want to hear from the community about what do they want to see in their playground. With that, I will hand it off to John to talk about our breakout room.
Great. Thank you very much, Eric. So what we're going to do, we figured we have so many people that we want to break out into 4 groups and smaller groups so that everybody has a chance to ask questions and comment and express their opinions related to the different concepts that are being proposed, the different types of features that will be in the park, and the different types of play that is being proposed. So what we're going to do is we're going to take about 20 minutes. We'll break out into 4 groups. Each room has an assigned facilitator and a note taker. I will be in room 1, Andrea will be in room 2, Eric will be in room 3, and Keely will be in room 4. At about 18 minutes, after 18 minutes have gone by, there'll be a 2-minute warning. We will wrap up. We will ask for somebody in the room to volunteer to summarize what we've learned in our breakout room, and then we will reconvene, and each of the 4 breakout rooms will report back to the larger group what we've learned. After that, the design team will discuss next steps. Andrea will talk about the Engage Pittsburgh platform, which is another method to provide more input that is open until January 5th. And then we will close the meeting. So with that and the magic of technology, Jenny is going to send us into our breakout rooms. Okay, this is technological success, I would call this. We've all made it back from our various breakout rooms to reconvene. So what we'd like to do is take the next 10, 15 minutes, whatever it takes, to have each group report their findings from the breakout room. So with that, I was the host for breakout room 1, so I'm going to share my screen. and Sarah is going to provide a summary of what we heard in our breakout room.
Great. Yeah, so we had a great discussion. I'll keep my summary very brief, but if folks who are in the room feel like I didn't capture something that they want to make sure is heard, please jump in. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm for all of the plans. Some specific support for, I think the first and third plan was expressed. I think two of the main points that we heard in a couple of different ways are one, there's some priority to preserve flexibility in the use of the spaces and to ensure that the spaces remain kind of both flexible in their multiple uses in the near term, but also that they have kind of longevity and are useful and appealing in the long term as well. And kind of adding on to that they have the resources behind them to be in good shape to be used in the long term, so that they're spaces that are designed with longevity and maintenance in mind. And then also that accessible split spaces are really valuable, both kind of age diversity, but also to different needs among users. And one finer point, I guess, on the flexibility space that we heard was making sure that just open space is preserved. And so both kind of programmed space that can be used in different ways, but also just open, unprogrammed space that can be used for your general recreation, throwing a ball around, that kind of thing. And then a last point, there was one other thing I wanted to share that I heard a couple of times. Just ensuring that with the redesigns, that visibility for the play spaces is not lost. And then a couple of people also mentioned, just in terms of particulars for the space, that that swings were a priority.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and now Andrea will share hers, and there will be a breakout room 2 summary.
Do you want me to do that, Andrea?
I've got it. Sorry.
Sorry, I tuned out there for a second.
Can you see it? Oops. Can you see it?
I
Okay.
can, yes.
Okay, thanks. Just real quick, I wanted to recognize that Councilmember Gross has joined us tonight, and I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you for the support in the project. I hadn't seen that you joined earlier on in the project, but thanks for being here. And again, we appreciate your support in the project. So I'm just going to call on someone from my group. Jordan, would you mind giving a brief recap of our findings?
Sure. Yeah, I think we talked maybe not necessarily about the specific options or concepts, but a lot of people commented that they liked maybe option 3 a little bit more because it was more flexible for use of teens and older kids, versus concept 1 and 2 were more geared towards younger groups. Is that right? And then we did talk about the historic walls and just adding in accessibility along 39th Street, as well as the entrance on 40th Street. Just thinking about safety and maybe adding a rail along the street to keep kids in.
Yep. And we had a lot of comments about some of the historical aspects of the park and how to restore some of the walls when we get into construction documents as well. So thanks, Jordan. And I'll stop sharing my screen, and whoever's up next.
That
Eric-
would be me, yes. We were group 3, and bear with me. Can you see the Jamboard? Okay, and if I could ask Team Andy to provide a little, just a little summary of what we talked about.
Yes, the main thing that our group seemed to agree on was more seating. We liked the concepts that had places for picnicking a lot, and also swings also came up as a good thing for kids all around. Also a place to preserve fireworks for the 4th of July celebration that happens at the park, which sounds like it was under control. And we talked about the possibility of an enclosed area for younger kids to kind of keep them safe and separate and allow parents to have, you know, a little peace to know their kids aren't going to be run over by older kids, or just to keep them enclosed maybe. And then also safety and lighting came up, and a conversation about whether there be plugs for electricity and Wi-Fi, and acknowledging that people who are older use the space for maybe working from home. And then a question about what will be permittable, what space will be permittable for group games like kickball. And I think that's it.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll go to room 4, and that is Keely.
Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So if whoever volunteered from my group who wants to talk about some of the things we discussed.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay.
So we agreed with what a lot of people have already said. We had a lot of discussion around opening it up more for teens and including a skate park possibly. I think we have a little note on there about that. We talked about like the issue with restoring the wall and how that's a historical piece of the park. And we're assured that there's already plans in place for that. We didn't necessarily say if we liked 1, 2, or 3 better, but I think people were kind of in agreement that we could pick things from all of them to make one really awesome park. And also that we have an opportunity to really develop something very unique for the city that doesn't exist anywhere else. We did talk about if there was enough shade at the park, and things like making sure there's enough places like garbage cans and things like that, so there's not like trash, you know, spilling out everywhere and into the community. Also, we talked about like more logistical things too, like how much the budget is that covered for all 3 for all 3 phases, and then like how the city hires the workers. And we were also assured that there's like a very strict process in making sure that minorities and women and everybody are represented in that phase. And then and then someone brought up a good point that even though we have like these designated groups for like different age groups, that they were at a park in another city and saw like older kids and even adults playing on a lot of these structures. So that's something to keep in mind too, that just because you're over the age of, you know, 12 or 6 or whatever the case may be, you might still have fun on some of these things. And I didn't get a chance to speak in there, but I figured I'd bring it up now. I was also wondering about the 4th of July, if that was still happening. And then if there is a ballpark, I know when my kids played ball for 9th Ward, there was never a concession stand. So we always had to set up, if we wanted to sell things, we set up like our own table and things and sold concessions. So I think like some kind of mini little concession stand, if there's going to be a park, might be worth talking about. And if anybody else from my group wants to chime in, if I left anything out, I think I covered everything.
All right, great. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Keely. Now we'll go back, Eric, you're going to share your screen for the last slide that Andrea is going to address.
Okay, thanks.
Is that
Eric.
up there?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
up. It's up. Yep, I was just working on unmuting myself. So.
Me too.
Well, I just want to say thank you for everyone coming out tonight. This is a really amazing turnout for our first public meeting. Also, just want to acknowledge that this is a lot of information to take in. Sometimes it can feel really rushed. And it's a bit difficult to kind of grasp everything that you're seeing on the screen and try to give feedback on that. So I want to remind everyone that all of the concepts and the playground styles are posted on the Engage PGH platform. It's again, the city's community engagement platform. And we have a survey open on the website as well, which will be open until January 5th. We want to make sure that people have enough time to review these concepts some more, come up with more questions, and really take a look and make sure that you feel comfortable with what you're seeing. You know, my email address is also listed on Engage. Feel free to reach out. If I can't answer your question, you know, I will work with our project team to make sure that we get a response back to you. So we have also recorded this meeting. If you feel like it rushed through or you know people that weren't able to attend the meeting, the meeting has been recorded and we will post the Zoom link to that Engage page. So share that with any friends or family that weren't able to attend the meeting tonight. We'll also be working on an activity for the youth in the neighborhood to kind of get some of their ideas for the play space. Dave with LU and Lauren with LC have been really helpful in connecting us with Arsenal Middle School and some of the kids in the neighborhood. So you will be able to go onto the website, download that activity, take a picture of it and send it either to me or upload it back to the Engage page or return that to Lawrenceville United in person. And we will let you all know when that activity is ready to go. And we will also be working on scheduling future community meetings. We have estimated that we'll meet again in the winter of 2021 and again in the spring of 22. And we will reach out to everyone to let you know when those meetings are scheduled so you have enough time to get that on your calendar and register through Engage. So thank you so much for joining us. And please don't hesitate to reach out. Please visit Engage. Reach out to Lauren or Dave. We want to make sure you know, we're meeting the needs of the community. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will be in touch soon.
And if there are neighbors who do not know how to use Zoom or the computer, please do refer them to us. We can print out materials, we can drop it off to them. We can coach them through participating by phone. So we want to make sure everyone has access to these meetings. So please do tell your neighbors and do assure people who are scared of Zoom that we'll help them figure it out.
Yeah, and Dave has printable versions of the surveys and I believe the printouts of the concepts as well that, you know, they are happy to review with people who need it. So appreciate that.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Diddly-doo, diddly-doo, diddly-doo.